Hey, hi, Tom. I'm with Tom Schulman, writer, director, producer of Double Down South, now in theaters. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you
Oh,
being here.
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So Double Down South. It's a con
Yeah.
film, so I just want to make sure I'm not revealing anything. So what's
Right.
the basic plot line and story of Double Down South?
Well, there's a pool hall out in the middle of the backwoods of Georgia where they play a game called Keno Pool. And Keno is a game that started around the turn of the 20th century, lasted about 100 years, hardcore gambling game. It's got they put a board on the table. The board has holes drilled in it for every ball in the rack. There's also a hole in the middle called the double hole. And if you make a double on the break, you win twice the bet and you get to shoot again. And if you win again, the bet doubles again, and so on. So some unsuspecting rube can step up to the table, put a few bucks down, and end up losing their shirts, which almost happened to me the first time I played it. So so a guy named Nick, played by Kim Coates, runs this place, and he's kind of an impresario. He likes to lure high stakes players there. He takes a cut of the pot. So this very attractive woman named Diana shows up one day, played by Lily Simmons, and she's keen to play Keno. And Nick is keen to exploit her, and that starts a relationship that leads her playing some of the best players in the world, and with interesting consequences between her and Nick, which I won't give away. And there are other characters there. The house is essentially a dysfunctional family. So she falls into that.
Yeah, and also I it does fall kind of within that the hustle genre in there as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so in reading the Wikipedia on this, it says that and you mentioned you played it. What was the inspiration for this story?
As I said, I guess with a misspent youth, I spent time in pool halls when I was a kid, and there was a pool hall in Nashville where I grew up called 20th Century Pool Hall. It was a real dive, in a dangerous place. It was run by three Nicks, similar to what's at this pool hall, although the youngest Nick was probably in his late 30s. But and these guys, if you asked them what their relationship was to each other, they'd just stare you down and say, get out of their face. And there was this attractive woman who came into the pool hall every so often and played Keno with the guys in the back. And us kids would, crowd around and watch and hope for some attention from her, which we never got, but just, watch these tough people play this game. So that stuck with me. And I was, sort of rummaging around in my brain second year of the pandemic, trying to figure out, what I wanted to write. And my wife said, you always write these male-oriented movies. Can you write a woman? I'm like, I don't know. Let me try. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write about this woman.
Yeah. I'm looking at your IMDb. I don't know how true these things are, but there seems to be a very long gap between your last project. I think it was Welcome to Mooseport, and I think Anatomy of Hope was in there.
Right.
What brought you back into not only writing a film, but also choosing to produce and direct it?
Right. I didn't produce, by the way. Just
okay.
Okay. I've been working since Anatomy of Hope and Mooseport. Just things haven't gotten made. A couple of things that I've been working on for the last few years are sort of on the verge right now. So we'll see. But things take time, and I guess as you get older, things take even more time. So, it's not for lack of trying that I haven't. That things haven't gotten done. So.
Well, I mean, that's the thing we've been talking on our channel a lot about. It's it's kind of like the Hollywood system has gotten really bloated, and I think it's almost impossible to break into it, even as a young writer. And you're with Level 33 here. I kind of miss the return of that mid-range indie drama, indie comedy, kind of around the $10 to $30 million movie. What was that kind of how you sold the film, or how? I guess I'm trying to get from you kind of a state of the industry and how the film ultimately got made.
Yeah, well, it got made because we had angel investors who liked the script, and the thing was made way less than $10 million, very
Yeah.
very inexpensively. So 22 days of shooting and so forth. But I think there are a group of people who still love movies, and what you'd call that mid-range, 10 to nowadays, gosh, the mid-range is probably 10 to $80 million.
Mm-hmm.
And because you have a lot of studios that if you don't have $100 million worth of assets or a budget to start, they're not interested. So it's but for a guy like me who writes mostly originals, most of the time you're not going to be writing movies that cost that much. I mean, you'd be crazy to create a superhero
Mm-hmm.
at that, that costs $250 million with no, IP, as they call it, behind it. So, I think there's a feeling that this sort of mid-range movie, mid-budget movie is still something that can appeal, and people keep making them, and maybe they'll grab the attention of the audience again. That's the hope.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm just glad people still believe in these things, and we'll take a shot, take a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what about taking on the directing mantle as well?
Well, I directed a movie called Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag probably 20 years ago, and that was a great experience, but also a hellacious experience. We didn't quite have the budget we needed, and had all kinds of problems with the elements. Just rain when it was supposed to be clear in the in the middle of the summer, that kind of stuff. It just made it really hard to make that movie. So always wanted to get back on that horse again, and sort of bided my time, and waited for the one that I thought was both something I'd love to do, and also something people would let me do. So this one fell into that category.
Yeah, and then I mentioned before it's a con film. Watching it just brought me back to like the old days when my dad would put on The Sting. And then I got kind of into The Hustler and Color of Money.
Yeah.
What was I guess, were you specifically looking at making a con film, and also what were kind of the challenges that you faced in terms of making a movie like that?
Well, I mean, I knew as soon as I wrote it how it was going to work, how the story was going to work out. As soon as that occurred to me, then I thought, this is what I want to do with it. So what you're, at least I know what my ending's going to be before I start writing. So, and I love those, Matchstick Men, those kind of movies really appeal to me, so, that, and again, The Hustler is one of my favorite movies, even just to be in the same conversation with it is incredible. But, and you make a pool movie, you get in that conversation. So good.
Well, yeah, I mean that's inherent with the game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But so I like seeing what happens to people under a lot of stress. How they handle it, and also a question in a really tough, bad world: can goodness, love somehow triumph and win, in a believable way? That's always a question for me, and I think it's sort of one that's relevant. So,
well, I'm gonna ask the next a shop question. Basically,
okay.
I do improv comedy. I've been doing it for like 30 years, and there's one aspect of improv that we call status. I don't know if there's a movie or writer term for it, but it's the idea that when you do a scene, you need one character needs to have high status, one character needs to have low status, and that creates kind of the dynamic flow of the scene. And in the case of Double Down South, what I noticed was that everyone was basically high status characters. They had to portray themselves as higher than they really are, but at the same time, you have to kind of find. You have to kind of have that pecking order of who has the highest, who has the lowest, and like
Right.
that. Is that something? Am I thinking too deeply into the process here, or is that something?
No. That the power dynamics are in my mind the whole time. And that's sort of a. I mean, I think that's there in all drama, all comedy, everything we do. It can't be about that. So although I guess Succession is about that. But it has to be, that's part of it's a game, You know, it's a very sophisticated game, and who's on top and, you know, gets to call the shots in any given moment and that sort of thing are you know, very relevant to the to what happens and to who wins, who loses. So I think that's exactly right. And this is a gambling movie, so, you know, that sort of stuff applies, you know, even more so.
Hmm. And another thing is our viewers are indie filmmakers. They're up and coming, emerging. They're just trying to get into the just trying to get their stories told. Do
Yeah.
you have any advice? You know, you've been doing this for a very long time, especially from the writing end. But what do you think of the state of the industry today compared to like when you started back in the '90s? You know, is there hope? What kind of encouragement can you give?
Yeah, I mean, my sense is that on a certain level, it's easier because no one can stop you from writing and directing a movie. You know, you can make it with your iPhone and, you know, a few friends if necessary. So yeah, there's some level of, you know, entry money needed, right? But you can make a movie for $15,000-$20,000 or less. You know, um, uh, Pi, which Darren Aronofsky, I mean, I think he made it for $10,000, you know, and it was a kind of brilliant mesh between what he had available, which was a Bolex, a hand wound Bolex, and, you know, a plot where someone's kind of going crazy. So the stylistic restraints fit his plot, you know, and his character brilliantly. So people recognize that, and, you know, Pi. Now that was years ago. Can it happen again? Yeah, I think it can. I think you know, the business still thrives on entry level people, you know, coming in and exciting, you know, the powers that be in the business, because their job, amongst other things, is to do things inexpensively, and new people are inexpensive. You know, you're not looking at suddenly paying a director $5 million or $10 million. You know, you can pay a director scale and hopefully get something really exciting out of them. So, and you see that all the time. They graduate indie directors to, you know, make into the Marvel world, you know, partly because I think, you know, those directors have a really interesting vision, and partly because those directors will listen to the executives. So but
that's a whole other discussion.
yeah,
And they're probably cheap too. That's
absolutely. Compared to what, you know, now, you know, if you're looking at a budget of $250 million, does it really matter whether the director's 300,000 or 3 million? Probably not. But it's still, you know, as they look to cut costs, those things matter. So I think there is opportunity. There definitely is opportunity. And if you look at the kind of series that are getting made now, you know, there are a lot of series with very new people, you know, popping up. And because there's so many series, there's definitely opportunity for people. At any given moment, anybody you want in your movie or series is busy. So new people, new faces, new directors, etc., are welcome if the studio, if they show you know, enough talent.
mm-hmm. Okay. So I have to do the Dead Poet Society thing. Sorry. I mean, how did that come about? I mean, that you know, I mean, I'm always curious as to what the industry was like back then, and for a film like that and a story like that to have garnered attention, especially, I believe it was Touchstone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody turned it down, including Touchstone, the first time around, you know. So, you know, it was very discouraging. I look, you know, you write something like that and you don't expect people to go, wow, next second coming, you know, let's make this tomorrow. It was, I think it was 4 years from the time I wrote it to the time it got made, which, you know, in movie time is not bad. So, but of course, through all that process, you feel like it's not going to get made at all. And then all of a sudden it does. But
what was the green light moment? When did it?
There was a director whose name I should mention because he was the first director on the movie and ended up not getting to direct the movie, but he had a deal at Disney to do a story, an ensemble piece, I think an ensemble musical. So he was looking around for a writer, and my agent was his agent and gave him Dead Poet Society. And he called and said, I don't want to do this ensemble musical anymore. I want to do that. So I want to do Dead Poets. So he took it to the studio, and the studio suddenly said yes. And Jeff Katzenberg, who was running Disney, had not seen it. The other executives passed on it before. So he read it and bought it the same day. And, 3 days later, we're in a casting meeting, and, the movie's greenlit. So, a shock. But
Yeah. And I mean, and did you, I'm a silly question, but did you anticipate the reaction that it would have, and also the long lasting nature of it?
no, no. I mean, look, you write something, you always hope it will be wonderful. I mean, if from my perspective, if you don't feel great about it, you shouldn't be sending it around. But to have, realistic expectations, just that it get made well, and a few people see it. I mean, that's all you can hope for. So, it's Peter Weir did a great job. Robin Williams, the whole cast. It was just amazing.
All right. Well, thank you very much for this. I
Yeah, you're welcome.
appreciate it. Double Down South is in theaters now, and pretty sure it'll go. Is it on VOD as well?
It will be March 2nd.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.